Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Talking Stick Show. So, we're going to be talking this show about psychic surgery, soul auditing, soul retrieval, energy healing, and loads of different topics today. So, I'd like to welcome my special co host. We have the Laura Massey to the show. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Dale. It's really good to be here again. Love this subject because people get very confused by psychic surgery, I think, and it has a bit of a woo woo connotation. So it
Yes.
will be
Yes.
good to put that to rest.
So, Laura, what's going on in your world at the moment? What's coming up before we...
Okay, so Andrew's gone home. He's not with us tonight. He's busy. So we have been preparing for our next combined and paranormal tour in York. So the Paranormal Rangers are coming to York in April, and from the 18th to the 27th of April, we will be in York, UK, on another combined healing therapy week. I'm also doing a 2-day HIFU. If you remember, that's the vaginal tightening and all the rest of it related to the divine feminine. So a divine feminine package for 2 days. And in the middle of all this, we're inviting the Paranormal Rangers to York. So we're going to have 2 days of seminar with them in the hotel and 2 days of out in the field with deathly dark tours. A fabulous husband and wife team who are taking us to all the places of paranormal ill repute in York. So the Paranormal Rangers will be with us. You'll be able to meet them, and you'll be, as part of the package, you get lots of equipment like body cameras and so on. You'll be able to you will learn how to use with them and be able to use them in the field. So Andrew and I have been really busy preparing that along with the Paranormal Rangers. So we might have been a bit light on shows at the moment, but we're getting there. Combined is becoming a very big part of our lives at the moment, and the Paranormal Rangers. So it's going to be really good to have all that going on in York at the end of April. What's going on with you, Dale?
So we have some special news. I'm going to be offering a new service and a new treatment, which is called Soul Audit. So I'm not fully moving away from psychic surgery, but I've realized over the years and years of doing psychic surgery that I'm doing so much more. So Soul Auditory. So Soul Auditory is designed to assist on regaining ancestral and self balance within the soul. So it will begin when I read the patterns of the client that do not align with the soul's highest growth. And it will also look at what's stopping you from reaching personal elevation. So there'll be also clearing of dream worlds, timelines, so you can regain your own personal sovereignty. The session will also include soul retrieving and remanagement, so you can begin to walk personal freedom, exploring one's own sacred space. I will also be reading the roadmap and giving you the soul audit and taking you to many places to get many different audits from all different times and spaces and other opinions as well. So if you'd like to book a soul audit with myself, head over to daletobin.com, and I'm excited to be offering this new service. I'm also going to be looking into the lineage more as well, so I'll be able to go back into your mother's lineage, your father's lineage, and start understanding what karmas, what resolvement is needed there. So I'm excited because it's something new for me, and I've been doing it throughout the last years. I got to the point where I don't want to take as much, because I basically had loads of people who came to see me who were haunted time after time after time. It was just clearing demons, clearing this, clearing that. And I realized I needed to do something different. What could more impact people in a different way, instead of just clearing shit out of them all the time, allowing them to have more of the kind of contrast and understanding how to do it themselves as well. So yeah, let's go into it, Laura. So psychic surgery, what has been your experience with psychic surgery and your understandings of it, Laura?
Well, I was trained by the best. I was trained by you and Andrew, grandmasters of psychic surgery. And I think what you've just been saying is the term psychic surgery actually has its limitations. One,
Yes.
because it's being co opted on the internet, and we've had people like John of God who have not given it a good name. And I think that I don't know about what you do. You think the term itself has got its limitations, and now you're going more into soul auditing, which actually probably explains a bit better what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was the same when I first started it. I looked into the John of God stuff, and I realized there was a lot of people doing it out there. But the
Mm,
majority of psychic surgeons who call themselves psychic surgeons, they're not. I'm not saying they're not doing it right, but majority of them were doing it like angelic Reiki, where they channel a psychic surgeon or they channel an ancestor and start allowing that to come through in the session. But what I'm doing and what I'm training is I'm actually helping people do it themselves, how to be the actual soul surgeon. So psychic surgeon does have its limitations, the word psychic surgeon. Some people it offends them, some people it triggers them, some people love it, some people hate it.
mm,
There's just loads of different contrasts for it. So yeah, that's pretty much my feeling towards it has changed throughout the years. There's a lot of going in and picking shit out of people, and this is what you have to do. And even though I try and run away from it so much, it's so fucking needed, because when we talk about shit in others, projections, people's vomit, people's karma can get
mm.
stuck in our own energy field, and it can really, really affect us. So I've tried to get away from clearing out people, but I have to go in there with my hands and start just bringing it out like there's no other way here.
And it's not just practitioners who get stuff stuck and get projections at them.
Yes.
Anybody can. So I think the fact that you're teaching something that people can do for themselves if they feel so inclined. And you asked what my understanding of it is really it's being in charge of your own energy field. And it's making sure you're grounded, you're sovereign, that you're not acting from adrenal, you're acting from heart based, a heart spaced base place. Well, that's a mouthful. And so much of it is about your trust in yourself as a practitioner. And one of the things I wobbled with at the beginning of doing it was actually trusting what I saw, because I was concerned I wasn't actually getting these wonderful visions like you and Andrew seem to be, until we chatted. And then I realized so much of it is just a feeling. So much of it is a knowingness, which is all the senses combined, not competing, not that the senses not competing against each other, but actually being a combination of all your senses that are wrapped into a knowingness.
That's it, and it's allowing the trust and the joy in who you are to be open in the surgery or the energetic healing session, is allowing that grand master to come through. And when you become a grand master, you start allowing yourself to have fun in the session, start smiling, start breathing, start actually relaxing, because a lot of people go into sessions and they're so uptight. Right, I've got to do this work, I've got to clear out this, clear out that. They forget to look back and smile and just go, this is fun. Like,
Yeah.
and there came that moment where I started laughing. And I remember in a session, and I spoke to Andrew after, and I was like, why am I laughing in some of my sessions? I'm just laughing at stuff. And he goes, because you're understanding how to be the grand master of the session now, and you're having fun and you're acing it. And this is what everyone should be doing in sessions: have fun, enjoy it. It's a unique experience. And like, the combine for me as well has completely taken my soul auditing, psychic surgery, soul surgery, whatever you want to call it, to a completely new height, because it's helped me kind of understand how great, like, you are, Laura, how great I am, how great Andrew is. And when we work together as a team, it's like an orchestra where we're tuning into the great universal note, and we know what's needed in the moment. There's no competition between us in any way, shape, or form. It's a space where we're listening to each other of our own hearts. Sometimes we talk, obviously, but it's more of a feeling, isn't it? We're kind of like, we have that space, right, Laura? What are you doing? What am I doing? What are you doing, Andrew? And it's kind of like going into the music.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful. We're all singing off the same hymn sheet, as they say, which is wonderful. And also the fact, yeah, we do laugh during it, because laughter often breaks up stagnant energies, which a bit of messing around, and that, I mean, we're focusing on what we're doing, but you can also have fun with the client, and that's such a good way of shifting energies as well. And yeah, we all tune in our own way. But the whole objective of everything is to get that shift in energy within the client and get them participating. Because in your soul auditing, what you're talking about is you're not doing something to the client. You've got a co-creation going on with that client, and you're imparting to them your wisdom, your knowledge of how they can maintain their energy field.
Yes, beautifully put, Laura. And that's it. And it's about if you're listening to this and you want to do psychic surgery, don't rush into it, because a lot of people rush into it too fast and take things on, try and do things too quick. An example would be clearing out negative entities, clearing out ghosts. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it until you've learned how to do it properly. Because over the period of time of dealing with these ancestral hauntings or demons or out like that, sometimes you can't win them all. And that's something you have to get when you're a psychic surgeon. You're not a spiritual warrior who can beat everyone, who can take everything down, kill everything. You've got to have some understanding of where you have to say no, or where you have to say, right, I'm not able to do this at the moment. I'm going to try another way, or I'm going to try another way. And we've seen that a lot of times, haven't we, Laura?
Absolutely. And if you don't have a good amount of self-love and a good amount of self-trust, if you're not on the self-mastery journey in any way, shape or form, you just can't go in there and do something like this. You've got to have that trust of yourself and that love and respect for the actual practice that you're doing. Otherwise, as Dale says, I think you get so many kickbacks. You're just
Yes.
not going to be able to handle what's coming at you. And sometimes that can be quite tough. As you were saying at the beginning of the show, some of the stuff that comes out, you've got to be able to handle that and know things like falling into your heart space, doing the breath work. So important, because I learned from you, Dale, something I didn't know, that breath work can actually clear entities.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
do
If you're
that,
haunted and listening, Wim
Yeah.
Hof breathing.
And trusting every part of your body. I think that's another thing I learnt from you, is bringing your trust to your third eye, bringing your trust to your hands, bringing the trust of you to every part of your body that's interacting with that person on the couch.
That's it. And say if you've got an example of someone who's an energy healer who doesn't eat enough, doesn't look after themselves, doesn't do any work, you there's no point you doing energy work until you actually maintain yourself, have enough energy to do it. I was burnt out for years and years as an energy healer when I was a vegan, or I didn't do the right type of work for myself. Until the moment now where I can do sessions and I can feel fine after sessions, do combine for 2 weeks, 8 hours, 9 hours a day, have breaks in between, and still maintain. Obviously, I get knackered and tired, but I don't get the burnout. I do get burned out from time to time from life issues or life problems combined with other things. But for me, it was about how to preserve my energy. And for those who want to start doing it, and if you're going to deal, like yesterday, I had an example of a lady was sick on the actual session. She had an entity attached to her tailbone and her spine, and she was actually sick. Her girlfriend got her a bucket, and she actually got this release coming out of her. And that entity was projecting at me from the start straight away. As soon as I went on with her, the entity was just projecting negative energy at me, and I could feel it. And 10 years ago, if that was me, I would have got my ass completely annihilated. I would have literally probably gone down paranoia, probably felt like shit afterwards. But because I had such a source faith connection during the sessions, and with every session I do, there's this kind of like sun energy I bring into my heart, where I realize I am source connected, I am faith connected, and I'm not entangling with the negative things, not trying to push or fight in any way. It's kind of like I am out creating what is there, if you get what I mean, Laura.
Absolutely. It's like Andrew's always saying, isn't it? What you look at looks back at you. And if you're going to focus on all that demonic energy and have that spiritual serious stick up your backside, then it's not actually going to do you any favors. Why do you think psychic surgery has been so dissed, has been so put down?
I think, as going back to the John of God, and I think there's a lot of people out there who are false fakes, who do the makeup, but there are people who actually do it real. There are a few peoples out there, and I had a conversation with Andrew 2 weeks ago on Combined about this. There actually are some psychic surgeons out there who actually can go into the body, remove cancer, and remove certain things. There was a guy, I can't remember his name now, but John of God was real. He was able to do psychic surgery at the start. He was able to go into the bodies with the hand and use his guides and guardians, because he had special psychic surgeon doctors around him. So they basically came into him and helped him go in, get stuff out. But then he got hijacked. Then he started obviously getting hijacked, getting haunted, and he got taken over, basically turned into the predator and stuff like that. So I think the John of God has been the main thing, which is, and all these false people have completely put the shine out of it.
But it is so much more than surgery, isn't it?
Yes.
Where it goes into the soul auditing, because the whole idea really is that you want your soul to evolve. Yeah, that's why we're here. One of the reasons why we're here. And so I would say this soul auditing, if you're teaching people to do it themselves, it really helps them look at, who they are, doesn't it? And all the various aspects of them. And it also brings in many aspects of what Andrew teaches, which is, like soul shards and so on, and soul shards that are running amok, and the parasympathetic that can get out of control if we let that rule our life. And we know from our own personal experience, from that we can create our own demons, which is something you and I have just been looking at recently. And so I guess I might call it the inner work, but some of the work you and I discussed recently about some of our own inner demons or inner aspects of us that need looking at is really a form of soul auditing, and saying that part of me is no longer serving my purpose.
Yes.
It's no longer my frequency match.
That's it. And so it's like those programs, a lot of people think they're haunted, and Andrew's talked about this loads. They think they're internally haunted or have a demon, but it's themselves. And this is the thing we have to remember. We have obviously the shadow. We have many different programs and versions of ourselves created out of lack of self-love, ancestral karma, all of these different experiences, which can lead us into a path of darkness. Not that's might be the wrong words there, but there can be parts of us which go off into the path of darkness, and they can bleed through into our life and make subtle changes, because we all have those programs which defeat us, don't we? We can see them, the underlining. It's like the dickhead self. We've talked about that on many different shows.
Well, I've got a dickhead self too. I mean, I've got, as you say, many of us have. But I was we were discussing this recently, and it came to me in a dream. And I didn't realize it was me. I thought it was something external of myself come to haunt me. And it wasn't nice at all. And I was quite shocked when Andrew said, that is an aspect of me, a part of me that I have to deal with. Which that started me down the road of, well, I've always done the inner work and the self-work and so on, but actually looking at that as a part of me I need to face and sort out.
Yes.
And be sovereign over, because it was running a massive program in me.
Yes. And that's it. And I think that happens in energy work and psychic surgery work. Sometimes of our self-defeating patterns can allow us not to read energy correctly, or allow us to go into doubt, hesitation, worry. And that's something you have to learn when you're doing energy work, is trust yourself, love yourself. And if you do have programs which come out and defeat you, just still love all things. And that's something Jamie Sams talks about in what many of her books, is loving all parts of yourself, loving all things, as those stories about the many different archetypes of loving people. And that's what I have to do now, is I have to love those parts of myself, because sometimes I'm like, shit, I don't want to look at this. I don't like this part of myself. And that's the worst thing I can possibly do. Because as soon as I think of that, I'm defeated in that moment. And I've allowed, and I remember Andrew saying to me, you you give that dickhead self too much power sometimes. I was like, yes, I do. And I was like, right, I'm going to de-snip the balls of the dickhead self. And when the dickhead code starts showing itself, I'm not going to allow it to I'm not going to feel bad, or I'm not going to go, oh shit, I'm going to, you know what I mean? Those feelings you get when you're like, oh shit, my program's just done something right here.
I think part of the problem is, in some ways, for me, I've taken it just a little bit seriously. Okay, so again, by doing that, I've given that demon or whatever aspect of me way too much power, way too much sort of play in my life, and part of my body or part of my parasympathetic than it's actually earned or deserves, just by taking it too seriously. I mean,
Yes.
there has to be a degree of focus for the work you're going to do, but again, it's back to the laughter part
Yes.
of it, isn't it? It's back to the lightness of the journey and the
That's
joy in doing it.
That's it. And there's something like the fox, for instance. That's a great teacher for me at the moment. It's about being elusive, being able to change with the patterns of the stars or the change with the seasons. The fox can go from one side to the next and be comfortable. And that's something I've had to do in my journey, is start allowing myself, if shit does happen, how can I adapt to it and start feeling comfortable in a shit situation? How can I flip frequency on it? Because I had
Yeah.
those moments before shows, before sessions, where shit would go down, stuff would happen. But now it's got to the point where it doesn't affect me anymore. Like, I've gone, fuck it. Like, no, I'm not. Like, even if shit goes down, I'm like, right, I'm fine. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
yes.
break down here.
Oh, it's like that too. You get the children and the dog jumping all over you or appearing in the background or calling you, and you're just like, no, I'm doing a show. Well, we have changed. We've
Yes,
changed over the whole year, and we've grown. And Matty's absolutely right. You know, he says when we start to work at these higher levels, it exposes the parts of us that need to go. And it's not a defeat. It is. You're right, Matt. It's just a continual process of the work that you have to do, and it just highlights it every time. And every time we come back from doing a combined healing event, you and I feel that we've gone another level, and
yes,
therefore there's certain things in our life that just are not the same frequency match that they were to us before we went to combined healing,
yes,
which shows one, combined healing works, but as practitioners, combined healing works on us as well, which then shows the co-creation of a beautiful algorithm that you were talking about before, that is created when you've got, I don't know, what do we have, 4 or 5 clients in the room at Mercure in York, and
yes,
then there was, I don't know, 4 or 5 of us practitioners there, Richard
yes.
and Tina as well as you, me, and Andrew. And
That's
then
it.
the work that was being done on one person on one table was helping somebody else who was on another table, and so on. You
Beautiful.
build up a beautiful algorithm of energy, which just works.
There we go. It works. And there
Mm.
was even moments where I've done surgery where I've been in tears. But it's actually, we've got a bit of an echo here going on. I don't know
Is
what's
it me?
yeah, I think it is. Oh no, it's not. Is it Joel or is it me? Hello, hello. There, Laura. Yes, brilliant. So yeah. So when even yeah, I think you're. So Laura's on mute, or is it me? Hello, hello. Testing 1 2 3. No, it's not me. So I've been in tears in psychic surgery sessions as well because of how powerful and special and kind of uniquely they've been. There was an incident in the combine therapy itself where I sat on a chair and I think it was Bob. There was 2 people in front of me. I think it was both Bobs potentially. And I was sat doing soul surgery, and Andrew was helping guide me into these kind of like experiences I never experienced before with psychic surgery. And so did ayahuasca about 5 months ago. And in one of my journeys, I went to the Dreaming Lodge of the West, and I had a Aya session with the bear. And I was looking into all the introspection, self-reflection teachings, looking into my dream worlds, looking how I can change, and loads of different other teachings as well. And there was a moment where I was using the Bear Lodge and the Dreaming Lodge as soul surgeons, psychic surgeons, and I was just in tears because I realized what next level was. And there was no, there was like one layer after next layer. Then I'm like, holy shit! I've seen this whole new layer of soul auditory and surgery, which I've, and that all these tears just came down. And I remember Andrew coming up to me and he was just pulling shit out my back. And for me, that was like, it was just like, wow, this is fucking so phenomenal. Guys, if you're learning soul surgery or Reiki, you can just keep it taking it and taking it to new different levels, new layers. The more experience you have of it, the more aware you are of it, because a lot of people get stuck in the same shit. Always try and expand yourself, see something new in a session, look at things in different ways. And that's what's helped me grow as a soul surgeon, not getting caught in the narrow mind anymore. How can I evolve? Next year, I'll even be more evolved. The next year, I'll even be more evolved. There's never ending, really, Laura.
Yeah, and I think it just shows you that the whole point of this, in many ways, is just to increase the density of light, so we can be the maybe sounds a bit light workerish, but we can hold that density of light on Earth.
Yes.
So the incoming beacons of light have got something they can come into. We are the beacons of light too on Earth. And so you want to replace, every time you're going to pull stuff out, you want to replace it with light. So you want to replace it, if you're going to have programs at all, you want them to be programs in your parasympathetic that work for you and not against you.
Yes.
And that's,
So,
some of the thing of doing your own soul auditing, as you were saying, is look at what is running you. Look at the because you can't always see the programs that are running you. I couldn't see it. I can't always see mine until somebody points them out. When you have Andrew to stay, you've got somebody to point them out for you.
and we have Matty just saying that it's got still got that bit of an echo, Laura.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. We have Matty
Okay,
saying
hold on.
bare necessities. And that was so I'll tell this story. So in one of the Aya journeys itself, on the first night, as I was in the Dreaming Lodge, and the lady who was doing it went around and said, does anybody have any requests for any music? It can be childhood music or any music you want. And I was trying so hard to come out of where I was to speak, and I couldn't. So I tried to do it, and it wouldn't happen. Then later on, she asked again, and all I just shouted out was a song about bears. Sing about bears. And then the next night, it was so magical because it was like halfway in the journey, and on my second journey, it was all about the founder beings and the founder ancestors and the original clan mothers. And halfway through, she put that song on, and we all heard the grandfathers of the Bare Necessities song in the back as wisdom, and we heard the wisdom of the song, and we were all pissing ourselves laughing. It was so special, wasn't it, Laura?
Yes, that was a very special moment and fun as well. So Dale, what part does soul retrieval play in your soul auditing?
So with soul retrieval itself, it's about receiving soul shards which have been lost through trauma in the future, the past, the present, and allowing those to be recalled to come back into the body. Some of the soul shards pieces don't want to come back, so when you bring a soul shard piece, you bring it back in, and it kind of doesn't want to be there. So you have to start doing this work to start clearing it out and allowing it to go back into the body. So psychic surgery is all about soul retrieval, because throughout the session there'll be times where there'll just be pieces and parts of them coming back to them because they've resolved some trauma or they've resolved ancestral karma or they've been given the roadmap enough to actually start bringing themselves back themselves. And that's what psychic surgery and auditing is. It's about giving them the roadmap back to the remembering of who they are. And you can do as much as you can, but it's all about them remembering themselves. And this is what I had throughout my Aya journeys and me in the last few years, was the remembering of who I am and that we are the ancestors here returning. We are connected to source, and we're here for a reason. And it's about remembering the fun of life, the happiness of life, bringing that all into the session. There's times where I'll just cry because I'll feel the client's energy of this energy. Like yesterday, that lady who had the stuff in her spine, the demon, she brought out this energy of love, which kind of overwhelmed me a little bit, and I started crying because I helped her. I didn't do it for her, but I helped her remember who she was. I brought the grandmothers and grandfathers around her, and I started showing her, look, this is you. They want you to obviously start being in your own power now. They love you. They've always been by your side through every single tear you've had. They've always been by your side. And there was an energy of remembering which came out of her, and it kicked out loads of negative energy from her. And all it was me just saying a few words and her realizing, oh, fuck, I'm remembering now. I'm auditing myself. I'm doing the soul shards myself. I'm doing the soul work myself. It's like shining a light. It's like shining a light.
So the ancestors are absolutely integral part of this work, aren't they?
Yes. And that's what I realized over the last few years was I did psychic surgery to the point where I was able to I'm able to scan a body. I'm able to read every single part of the body, the spine, like C1, C2, C3, T1, T2. I'm able to look in the tailbone, and after that, I was like, what's next? Then the next part for me was having the ancestors and being able to read the ancestral collective of the grandmothers and grandfathers, how I can bring them in surgery. I'm not going to talk about it too much because it's in some of the trainings and stuff like that. But the general gist of it is having a communication line to the North Pole where you're able to actually go and speak to the grandmothers, have such communication with their ancestral lineage or the thousands of grandmothers behind them, and start bringing again soul auditing to them. What's needed? It's like you have a phone in the North Pole and you just go dee, 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 right? What's needed for this client? And they just start telling you, right? Do this, do that. Then there's trust because, like Andrew said, do you remember Galactic History? One of the ones anyway. Andrew mentioned he had a part of him in the North Pole and part of him in the South Pole. And in ayahuasca, I realized what he meant. So afterwards, there was a part of me in the North, in the South, and I could just call upon both of the parts in the surgery as well. So what's the future potential? What's the past potentials, and so on.
Yeah, I think that's in one of his meditations in Living the Mystical Life Daily. And if anybody hasn't got that, I highly recommend you get that and work through those the meditations and the teachings because they're awesome, and the grounding is just so valid for everything. I mean, they're timeless teachings
Yes,
in Living the Mystical Life Daily. Absolutely, aren't
that's
they?
it.
So the whole point of the soul shard work is putting ourselves back together piece by piece. And what about if it's not the same frequency match? Is there something you can do where you can gradually bring a piece of soul shard in? How do you make it the right signature frequency to be accepted back into the body so there's not discordance?
So there'd be a clearing process I'd do. Some of the shards won't want to come back, and that's absolutely fine. Some of them aren't meant to come back in this life, maybe in future lifetimes. So it's about what you can do in the moment without feeling overwhelmed or without feeling I need to do so many things to bring it back. You have to be in your own relaxation state, happy state, flow state, and you'll have the best results in psychic surgery. Don't try and rush things. Take your time. Trust yourself. Don't doubt yourself, because a lot of people can't read because of just doubt and hesitation. And that's something where you've got to learn the basics. Start at the basics, don't rush. And with the soul shard retrieval, more about that. It's you also have soul shards in the future. Say if you're 3 days ahead of time, and you can have maybe 3 or 4 shards which aren't the best shards, doing stuff and planning, as Andrew's talked about before, future potentials in the crown chakra. That's what he means. So the soul shards can be planning, say, do, or lack. Those shards would be in the future, already fucking planning, planning a future which the sovereign you's not really having much interaction or making. And this is what soul shard and auditing is about as well, allowing the actual soul spark to have full cognition, full kind of, like, I'd say, roots in the ground, without the other soul shards going, right, I'm going to make you overwork, I'm going to create a shit schedule for you, I'm going to make sure you get up late or be late for work and stuff like that.
So that's when they are totally running the parasympathetic
Yes, that's yes.
in those cases. And so many times when we form those habitual patterns that are working against us, that's what's happening. I mean, you mentioned the do. That's what I had, and that I had to work really hard to bring that do. That general you described him as marching out there in front, making all these decisions for me that my body wouldn't be able to keep up with. That's one of the things you highlighted for me, I think, after I had my
Yes,
stroke.
yes.
So yeah, and that's when I first started to become really aware that there are these other parts of us that are holding us back, that aren't there for our greater good, which is why it's so important to actually do this work on
Yes.
ourselves.
So let's talk about with soul surgery. Let's talk about ancestral hauntings and stuff like that, because I think that's important. And I remember there was a point on the show where a guy called in. He actually had a session with me, and he called into the show. And there was a point where he had an ancestral being, and I knew I couldn't get rid of it fully. I knew I had to make it regenerate itself, and I knew it would be back in his lineage in at least 2 weeks. And I told the guy that, and I was like, I don't like what I'm saying, but I can't just fucking make up shit. I'm like, what? This is gonna come back. It's gone for now, but it'll come back to you. And then afterwards, I was like, am I doing this? Is this the right thing? Shouldn't I have got rid of it, and so on? Then he came on the show, and Andrew said exactly the same thing. And we were just trying to get him to realize that with these ancestral beings, and if you have an ancestral haunting or an ancestral entity feeding off the lineage, it's all about you reclaiming power and sovereignty to break it yourself. You have to break it yourself. You can't get any healer in to come in and break it for you. And I know there's loads of people listening who've had experience with ancestral hauntings and beings, and it all comes down to sovereignty, doesn't it, Laura?
Absolutely, and that comes down to finding that willpower and that spark within you. Because yes, I've seen clients who are so overrun. The parasympathetic is running every part of them, even the part that you think, well, that might be quite a sensible part and might be in control. And if you leave it long enough and you work with them long enough, all these programs start to expose themselves, and it shows you what is real and what isn't real, or what's sovereign and what's not sovereign. And unfortunately, there are people where you're just really not going to make any headway, or as you said, unless they can find that spark, that willpower to go and do the work and take themselves back, because that's what you're doing. You've got to fight for yourself. You've got to get yourself back from all these things that are running you. And as you said, Dale, you can take something out, but unless somebody does the inner work or goes and gets some other help in another way, it can creep back in again. And they are allowing that. And there's no blame there. That is sometimes just how it is, and it can be for so many reasons, can't it? Whether it's karma or many other reasons. We can only do our best, but at the end of the day, we do have to claim our own sovereignty. You've got to want to, though.
And that's it. And with like, I'd say ancestral beings as well, some of them are like quite easy to deal with, some of them aren't. But going towards like what you were saying, Laura, when you clear a demon out of someone, and that they don't have any self-belief, that they've got that many holes within themselves, you know exactly that in 7 months' time another one's going to come in and take that place, even if it's a different one. And this is what Andrew's talked about many times, is doing the inner work is so fucking important. And I'm not going to emphasize that anymore. If you want to enable yourself not to allow these ghosts to come into you, to start haunting the shit out of you, you have to be in your body. You have to learn groundedness, have to have a job, have to eat properly, 40 grams, 50 grams a day. You've got to be honest with yourself about your journey. And I have people come to see me who, right, get it out of me now, right, I've got it out of you, give you this little bit of advice. 6 months later, they message me again in like state of panic. It's back again. Go back and do the session. It's not there. It's just their own paranoia now. Gone into what's the word? Psychosis. So you've got to be very careful with these things, and you've got to as well go get help. Like if spiritual work can't do it for you, go see someone, get yourself booked in for mental health checks. Sometimes I've had people where spirituality is just going to make it worse for them, and this is something people have to realize as well. Sometimes spiritual stuff makes it worse, not all the time. I'm talking about like the 0.2% of things here. Sometimes I have to tell people, like I had a lady who was screaming at me in a car park at 4 a.m. in the morning in Australia, saying, "Get the demon out of me." It's still there screaming, being really abusive towards me. And so you deal with all sorts of different things, and there's not just one way to deal with it. Every single person is so unique and different, and you have to deal with it in that way. You have to deal it within that way, if you get what I mean.
So let's discuss some of the signs, because I've missed them before in myself, where we're not fully in charge, where the parasympathetic is taking over. And one of the things I notice with people is, and possibly myself in the past too, is there's a degree of ungroundedness. And that can be shown by being a bit spacey, walking into things, tripping up over things. That's something I've noticed before in myself, that ungroundedness. And another one is maybe saying something and thinking, "Oh, I wish I hadn't said that," or I didn't mean to say that, or that came out all wrong. No, I'm not saying somebody's got a demon because of that. That's not what I'm saying. But they're just little signs in ourselves that we're not fully in control of the parasympathetic or our programs or what's going on, what is running us. What other ones have you noticed, Dale, other than somebody screaming in a garage in the middle of the night at you on the phone?
I'd say so that was a level of paranoia, probably one of the most. It was an AI paranoia that everything was AI, and we talked about it. Andrew was joking about this on the last show. Yeah, it was all about AI paranoia. The computer was out to get her. This was out to get her. She actually demanded a refund from me after I gave her a full hour of my time, and I put a lot of fucking effort into that session. So that's just the nature of the person, just a complete CUNT. But you will get those type of people who come to see you, and I've dealt with all sorts of things, people's personality disorders, parasympathetic takeovers, lack of self. And a lot of people come to see me with lack of self, lack of who they are as a being. Like when you say, you know, you can do this, and they're like, what? No, I can't. No, I can't. And there's just no accountability. And we've seen it in the combine. We had one of my family members come, and my mum came to the combine, and she has a state where she can't go into full relaxation because the parasympathetic takes over her and starts pretending she feels sick. So you see a lot of different weird things going on. It's not always demon or ancestral.
No, no, not always, but the programs do start to make themselves evident when someone's on the table under the Lucia light and on the mat as well.
Yes.
This does seem to be able to expose certain programs that are going on. There's just I think it also comes with experience, and obviously I've learned a lot from working with Andrew and you. And there's a feeling as well. There's a knowingness, isn't there? There's a trust you get when you're actually talking to a sovereign being rather than not. But I've been fooled many times.
That's it. And say like those listening, look at your reality now and understand what the parasympathetic and what the programs are. So your parasympathetic is like it resolves here and down into the nerves, down the spine, and it has loads of different tendrils all the way through you. Just observe where paranoia comes from or weird thoughts. When you observe them, they come from here. It's never from this heart. And this is something you do have to realize. And what I've realized, I'm like, fuck, the parasympathetic such a twat. But I don't let it annoy me anymore. I just laugh at it because that's all it is. It's nerves. The nerves just taking over your body and going, I'm the experiencer, and you're there as soul, like, holy shit, are you the experiencer? And a lot of people think they are, and they just give the power away. It's like giving here you go, you take control over me, you take control over me. And I have programs now and then which defeat me, but I've gotten to a state where most of my day I don't let them defeat me. There are times where they come up and they do override and stuff like that, but it's got to a state where I'm starting to not allow them to have so much balls over me. It's like having big balls, like snipping the balls off so they've only got tiny balls. Then you kind of like have try and trick it. So when it's being all weird and strange, try and do something to completely trick it out of what it's doing. For me, EMF, I've been using that a lot lately, and that helps so fucking much. Like whenever I feel like I'm just a bit ungrounded, I go up onto the mat, go on PEMF therapy, and it completely takes care of it. Or self psychic surgery, and this is one of the things which I highly recommend for those listening who haven't learned psychic surgery. Learn it. If you suffer from anxiety or thoughts, negative thoughts, or just weird things going on, a lot of times it can be projections from other people. It can be energy stuck inside you. And I've seen that time and time again. When I have energy stuck in me from other things, it can create ungroundedness where the parasympathetic can have more access and control over me. So when I start removing shit from me, I feel normal again. So sometimes it's about understanding that it can be much more than the parasympathetic. There can be stuff added to it, but the parasympathetic's like, right, I've got some food now. I can fuck with this person.
Well, that's where the basic spiritual hygiene comes in anyway. So if you're doing that and you're doing a daily practice, that is part of it, like you were saying. But these programs, these things that come in are really sneaky. And I've been dealing with one. I thought I dealt with it. And then it comes in again. And I see it coming in, but for some reason, I just allowed my thoughts to let it keep coming in until I'd gone into almost a state of paranoia. And luckily, Andrew was staying. I mean, this was only last week. And he had a really good exercise for this, which is something that we can maybe expand on at a later date. But he had something called the truth box. And he had me write in the truth box everything I knew to be true about this particular situation. And he said, now, what you're now thinking will erase every one of those truths that you've written in the truth box. So which do you think is the sovereign thinking, and which is the program and the paranoia thinking that's creeping in? And when you look at it like that, it's quite obvious. But my mind, not working from my heart, just working from adrenals, was wanting to wipe out everything I knew to be true that was in that truth box. It was quite prepared to do that and actually put a relationship in jeopardy. That's how deep this goes. I was just ready to throw all my toys out the pram and walk away. And when I looked at it afterwards, you stand outside of yourself and look at that part of yourself, or you put that aspect outside of you, don't you, Dad? I know you've done this. You stand that aspect in front of you and start grilling it as to why it's doing this and what the problem is, and because you're trying to decide whether you heal that part, Dale, and integrate it, or whether you're actually going to say goodbye to it. And that's what happens, isn't it? You either heal it and integrate it, or you have to go separate ways, because you can't move forward as an evolving soul carrying that sort of shit.
And that's it. And you've got to realize that sometimes people trick themselves into thinking. I think there's a bit of an echo, Laura, going on.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
okay. So some people trick themselves into thinking they've got rid of it. And I've done this many, many times where I've done a little bit of work. But for every program there's different variations, isn't there? There's like one stronger one real fucking strong one tiny little one, which takes a little bit of work and it's gone. But for me, going back and doing the work on my lack of self one, that took me months and months and months, going back year by year, week by week, declaring that it's not a choice of mine anymore within those weeks, doing surgery within myself, not allowing that to be part of my life in the past. That took me months and months to do that. And it got to the point where I've talked about this before quite a while ago. I went to the float, and I think I did, after 3 months of doing the work, there was a time where I did the last day, and I did it 3 times. So what I did was I went back in from 2011 all the way to now, month by month, week by week, and I did it 3 times. So after the second time of doing it all, I'm like, holy fuck, I can't do this. It's too much. I kept doing it. I was getting blue in the face, like, fuck. And then the last time and last round, I went in the float and did it. And I got to the last one. And as I did it, I brought all of the versions around me, and I saw these kind of like geometry shapes behind them. And I saw that program out of me come out and shut the door and just go. And it was the funniest thing I have ever seen, because it just came out of parasympathetic and fucking left. Like, literally went, fuck this. And I'm like, and as it shut the door, I went, fuck you. I was like, fuck off. It was so uniquely funny, but it took me a long time to actually beat that. So you've got to realize it's not going to happen overnight. If you have things like, say, the do or my do or out like that, sometimes it's required to go back and take your time of the past and start changing it, and maybe doing it twice, maybe doing it 3 times. Some people who deal with, say, like I have drug addiction in the past, alcohol abuse, anything like that, that's not going to be an overnight thing. That's going to take you years and years and years of dedication, clearing, practice, like it did with my addiction. Like I had a drug addiction and all sorts of stuff, and it's taken me a long time to all of that shit still plays with me sometimes. I see those little parts of me trying to blend in to act normal. So yeah, really cool question, Laura.
So, how does soul auditing deal with projections from others when constantly surrounded by them, to use Michaela's question?
So how to deal with practice from with the constants around them. So it's just continually like cleaning your room out every 2 weeks, clear yourself out. The next 2 weeks, clear yourself out. If you're around people who project on you all the time, maybe they're not your right friends, or they project jealousy at you, anger, hate, and stuff like that. You've got to understand of who you're hanging around with. Fair enough, family members. We know family members, you can't do anything about them. You've got to obviously still connect to them. But I'd say forms of protection, you're going to have to up those, and start hardening yourself more. Say prayers over yourself to the future. Send energy forward in time for when you're meeting them, saying, I'm not denying their energy, not allowing it to come and change my sacred space. Seeing a suit on you, an armoring suit, all sorts of different things you can do there.
Yeah, absolutely. Revocations are very good in this situation, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, denying their entry into your field and so on. Yeah.
So has anybody got any questions about soul surgery or soul auditing in the chat? Any questions at all you'd like to ask? So going back to projections and talking about projections again, we all have it, like people who will see you and be jealous, or they'll be bitter or angry or anything like that. So a way of dealing with them is always making sure, again, you go into like the flotation tank, you start going swimming, you start allowing yourself to break up the energy from other people, because sometimes it can just feel like a soup of energy all around you, and you've got to realize your aura comes out. It's not just here, it comes out here. So you have to do clearing work all around the aura field as well, third eye, the crown, each and every chakra, go through them and start purging them out. A lot of people just say, burn a bit of sage and that's it, I'm done. You have to actually take the time and dedication to start clearing and learning psychic surgery if you want to do that.
And I think the other way is be aware of when we're projecting onto other people, maybe in our unknowingness, which is something that also came into my awareness recently. That every time I'm thinking, oh, that person could have done that, that's the old would have, should have, could have. I think Andrew's written about that as well. But that is interfering with their energy field. That's dumping on them. That is projecting on them. And I didn't know I was doing that in just having those thoughts. So it's back to the impeccability of thought, word, and action.
That's it. An observation. When you realize, sometimes I can feel projections coming into me from people, I'd see to them and I'd have to create a kind of a no energy towards me so I don't allow them to go further into me. Like you'll meet the person who's haunted or the friend you've not met before and they'll dump their energy at you. You can feel it just like it's kind of just like a toxic dump. You can like, whoa, like fucking hell, like straight away they just throw, you can feel it. Like we've all felt that and we all know that. And this is why protection, discipline, looking after yourself is important, regularly clearing yourself out as well. Yeah.
And yeah, Matty, yeah, that's a brilliant one, using the spiritual court of equity. Yes, I've done that recently. I've put parts of myself in the spiritual court of equity.
So we've got a question here, light language with that helps, right? So in light language does help because with light language you can translate the data from the spiritual world to the 3D world so much easier. So if you have trouble with reading people's energy, do light language then translate into human language straight away and you can have it brings you into trust. As soon as the light language comes out you can then read and there's just a knowingness because you're activating the soul, the glands of who you are. Laura, is anything else you want to add that to that as well?
So breathing, that's back to breathing, because your deep breathing puts you in a state of trust. And also sometimes singing, something that, like aligning with the light language, something that puts you into a state of deep trust with yourself, because that's what it's about, isn't it? It's trusting yourself
Yes.
in the process that you're doing.
And sometimes you'll need that light language to allow them to go into some deeper layers, or just we've had it on combined where we've started doing singing or light language together. We've been singing like grandmothers and grandfathers around them just because the client needs that nurturing energy, needs that comforting energy, like you're rocking them on a board or you've got them in your arms as a child, just what's needed in the moment. So yeah, light language is part of psychic surgery because sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, the vocal sound healing has now become quite a well used modality for us in combined, hasn't it? It just, adds something else, brings another equation
Yes, it really does.
to the algorithm.
Yeah. And for me, using my hands as well. But so in my psychic surgery sessions, I've got these various hands which come out my back. If you listen to one of the older videos where Andrew did my first reading a long time ago, he talked about these psychic surgery hands which come out my back. And there was a point where I started to learn how to produce these hands out my mouth. So when I was doing light language over people, I'd produce hundreds or thousands of hands out my mouth doing surgery as well. Um, I don't want to give too much away because there's much more I want to go into there, but you'll have to get psychic surgery one, and I'll tell you more about it. But oh. So, have we got any more?
So
Go ahead, Laura.
should we just give them without going too much into what you do,
Yeah.
a basic way they can do psychic surgery on themselves?
Yes. Shower. You use a shower.
Venus, yeah.
Go in front of a shower, a bath, the ocean. Start letting the ocean clear your energy field out. Um, those are probably the best ways to starting ways to start doing it. Go under the shower, clean your aura, clean your third eye, clean your crown, go throughout all the chakras. That's probably the easiest and best way to do it.
And go in the sun, Dale.
Yes. Yeah.
Get the sun on your third eye.
Yes.
Get your
Or your other eye, one of the eyes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in nature.
So, Laura,
Go wind bathing.
so where are we going to go next with this? So we have Judith talking here. Yoga Nidra is a really good tool at learning how to focus and go in the body as well. Very true. The focus of being in the body
Mm.
is very important. Yoga is incredible for those who suffer with being ungrounded because you have the action of the self by declaring yourself in the body by doing the stretches, and as well for the fascia and what we've seen in combined. It's very important stretching. So fucking important. It's regularly stretching the muscle and the fascia because some people, like myself, get abductors, which are really tight, glutes, which are really tight. So all of the stretching is important, very, very important.
Yeah, and so many of the energies are held actually in the cells of our body, aren't they?
Yes,
So when we do work like that, like the PMF mat and the Lucia light and so on, and the massage guns and so on, you're getting cell deep,
yes,
actually moving the fascia around as well, moving the energies around, which is why, like we're always saying, go for regular treatments, go and get a massage, even a basic thing, go and have a craniosacral therapy, shift some of the energies.
yes. And don't just have one session a year, get more sessions. And this is a thing which come across with psychic surgery. I'll have people who come to see me for a few sessions and they'll come back in 6 months. At least be having, I'd say, maybe one session every 3 months of energy work, maybe one every 2 months. You have to get someone to help you look in and take a look at you. And this is very important. I have it with Andrew and Laura where I ask for help. I'm like, right, I need help now. And I'm turning off being the psychic surgeon and I'm just going to be the student and just allow myself to listen and to see what's needed. And a lot of people have such an ego that they're energy healers, they're yoga teachers or whatever, but they don't go see people for sessions. And that's something you're going to have to get over that hurdle because that's blocking you from learning the next layer. You have to ask for help when you need help. Have friends around you who support you. Don't just be meek and stand on the sidelines. If you need help, go get it. And there's nothing wrong with getting help. I get help all the time. I'm like, right, I need hello, what's going on here? I need a bit of a hand here. Like just yeah, it's so important. And there's so many teachers out there who've got such a big ego about it, about listening to other people.
Yeah, or they're running the martyr program,
Yes, yes, yes,
that they're absolutely the last person that they look after is themselves, and they give everything to everybody else
yes,
and not nothing to themselves.
yes,
You know, you're going to be a better co-creator with your client if you actually look after yourself well. I mean, this is all basic stuff,
yes.
but we forget it. We do
You-
forget it as practitioners. We get really busy, and we give a lot. You have to be careful. You're not giving away your core energy,
Yes,
your absolute life force away,
yes.
because that weakens you.
So
That's where the self soul surgery again is so important, or the soul auditing.
yes.
What's going on in my energy field? What's mine? What isn't?
So what we could do, Laura, why don't we do a bit of demonstration on each other? Do you fancy it? Yeah. So I can
Yeah,
start.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can start by observing you. So what I'm doing is I'm starting to like look at Laura's heart and how it connects to the brain and the rest of the body. And what I'm picking up, Laura, is that there's too much thinking and too many choices going on with you at the moment. That there's so many crossovers with this choice to the next choice. Your heart's in the middle of it, going hello. And-
Yeah, that might be true. Hmm.
so what I'm doing now is I'm observing the heart and how it connects to all the body, and what are some of the patterns going on in Laura. Um, and I'd say so as I'm going from the heart up the spine, and I'm going to the throat, and there seems to be, I'd say, like these weird type fawns created within your throat, but these fawns are from yourself, and they're self-created forms. Fawns, the right word. Sorry, that's the right word I'm trying to do. So what I'm going to do in Laura is I'm just going to start to remove these out of her throat. There we go. And there's kind of like a sense of you blocking yourself from other people's frequencies at the moment. That there's such an observation of you in the unseen world, I'd say in other people's dream worlds and realities. It's now time to start bringing yourself back more. And this is something I have as well, Laura, using my psychic skills for the wrong things. So that's just
Yes, I might have been peeking in where I shouldn't have been
yes,
peeking in, maybe.
yes, yes.
Yes. In my unawareness, Your Honour.
So as I'm going to the lodge as well and speaking to the bear, so the bear is allowing and just observing your dream worlds, and I'm just allowing a few bears to go around in your dream space. And the bear's just saying it's now time to start observing yourself more with fluidity of who you are, and allowing yourself to return to that eternal river of yourself, where you're allowing yourself to flow again with the natural energies of the land, the natural energies of the wind, and the power of who you are. There's so much focus at the moment where your intentions are tangled in such an entangling way that your dreams are starting to be affected by this entanglement. So what I'm doing now is I'm just allowing the bears and working with them to start beginning to clear out the dream worlds as well. And they're talking to me as I'm doing this and having an audit or a conversation with them. And it's just basically, this is an example of what soul auditing is. It's allowing myself to go into where I'm reading Laura, but I'm also using many different ancestors, grandmothers, and grandfathers to observe energy, look deep within to the realms of forgotten. Um, so that's a little demonstration there, Laura. How was that for you? How was that?
Yeah, that was really good. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Yes, really interesting. A lot of food for thought there for me.
Yes, there we go. So,
Okay.
Laura, go ahead.
Some nice breaths for me. And immediately a whole stream of ancestors come in around you, which is really interesting. Because when I do this, ancestors don't always come in quite so quickly, but it's like they're right there on the edges of your aura, waiting to come in. So I'm just looking now down your. Oh, sorry. So I'm just going through, guys. So I'm looking at his left and right brain, how disconnected they are. Are they working together? Taking the energies down to C1, C2, C3, work my way down his spine, into the sternum, into the heart space. So in the heart space around the pericardium, there are various little indentations and holes. And it looks like Dale's been doing a bad sewing job on some of them. Okay, that is just what it looks like. So some have been stitched like bad, like a man doing darning, and some are still there. So your ancestors have come in with some sort of salve to put on that. They're almost like blisters. The ones I'm seeing anyway around the pericardium. So there's a lot of heart healing there that I'm feeling needs to be done. And that I feel like they're ready to help you do that heart healing. It's not completely split. It's not that. There's lots of little areas, I think, where you've given away your unconditional love and been burnt by it. Where you've given away your absolute beautiful heart and it's been abused, and all you've got back is perverted love. And I think all these punches, that's probably a better word to say, punches in your pericardium are like the perverted love that's come in. But I think the ancestors are definitely here to help you heal that. That's what they're showing me, and how proud of you they are for the work you do and what you're doing. And the grandmother said they can stitch it up better than you can.
So that was
Yeah,
that's incredible. Thank you. Really, really fun.
that was fun.
That was really, really fun. and that's it. So I've got a lot of changes going on in my life. I've got into a new house. I've gone through a separation as well. So I have to be responsible for myself because I am a human. Like when we do go through breakups or we go through mourning, you have to take the right. You have to take time to heal. You have to be really light with yourself. Don't feel too bad if you don't get things done. And this is why speaking to the ancestors is so important. Prayer is so important for me. It helps me so much remember why I'm here and what I'm here to do. So at times when I do get lonely, because I do get lonely, I'm a human, I start saying prayer to remind me of the force of love and the eternal flame which lives within everyone and myself. And this is another medicine of in a dream, I had a rainbow lizard come into my vision, and the rainbow lizard is all about the eternal flame of the Creator. So that for me was a huge thing for me. I was in tears seeing that and feeling that, reminding myself that I've got the Creator's love within me, and during my hard times, always going back to that flame. It's never going out. It's never going out. It's always there within inside yourself. You're connected to great mystery and great spirit at all times. I allow myself to feel the fullness of my spirit again, and I do not allow loneliness to overwhelm me to the point where I go into a cage or I go back into self-defeating patterns, habits, drugs, alcohol, all of those different things. It's a funny old journey, isn't it, Laura?
It is, and that's the level of responsibility that you step up to, that level of discipline to not allow, just the sad thoughts or the bad thoughts or so on to creep in. I also live alone, and there's times that it is a struggle because I've lived with people for 59, 60 years until I lived alone. I don't think I've ever lived alone before then, but it's what I needed as part of my journey. And that has really helped me grow. And you'll read in many places that if you can live on your own or if you can holiday on your own, then you've really cracked something
Yes.
because you're managing it's not just about being self-sufficient, but you're discovering parts of you that get hidden when you live with other people, because when you're on your own, that all becomes exposed.
Yes, it does.
And you can try and run from it, but you can't. No, they show themselves. Those other aspects. So
So
yeah, and that's where soul auditing is so good. It's so useful.
yes,
It's such a brilliant practice.
and does lizard equal dragon? Bob Vogel. Uh, so the rainbow lizard is it's an actual lizard, not a dragon. So if you just type in a rainbow lizard, you might see some things and artwork of it. But it's something I found. So when I was younger, I had. Do anybody remember the TY Beanie Baby toys? So they were huge in like the 1990s. And the first ever toy I got was a rainbow lizard as a kid. And the only tea beanie I had was a rainbow lizard, literally when I was a tiny little kid. And I had that vision of the rainbow lizard, and I saw my childhood self holding the rainbow lizard. And I had this is what tears came because I connected back to that child because I loved that rainbow lizard. And it reminded me that he's always been there, all part of your journey, the creator's with you. And sometimes because of breakups, deaths, you forget and you go through loneliness, sadness, mourning, anger, and you forget sometimes what's truth. And the truth is that we all are creators, we all are great mystery within ourselves, but we have to do the dedication and practice to remind ourselves, to fortify ourselves, so we don't allow ourselves to go and get defeated, because the world does want to defeat you, the system does want to go defeat you, but it's about not allowing, doing the work to step up to say, no, fuck you. I'm having a great life. I'll have my moments of sadness and darkness, but it's not going to go every year. It's not going to change me or make me go down a path of darkness anymore.
And I think also, like, you can tell whether programs are running you or not after a while is how things are working out for you in life. Because the programs, the negative programs that aren't working for you have their own agendas, and things don't really work out the way that your sovereignty wants them to, and that's usually a pretty good indicator as well.
Yes.
It's to do this work. It just gives you, I think, a more joyous life because you're freer, and you're more the person that you came to be. You're working from your heart base. Your programs so much of the time that they work from adrenals, don't they?
Yes, they do.
But when you start working from your heart base, as Dale said, then you've got that source connection,
Yes.
and that, then you're an infinite being on an infinite journey, and that is what we are. But the programs stop us from realizing who we really are.
And that's the power of the grandmothers and grandfathers as well, because when you connect to them you can really feel the remembrance of what true love is, what true essence of the tree of life is. And when you connect to their special frequency, i always I always have a release and always go and have tears, but it's what I need in the moment. I have to go see the grandmothers and stand around them to start crying. Like, I need that energy sometimes I can't cry without it, and there'll be stuff held within me. So, right, and now I need to go and bring the bear lodge or go to speak to the bear, and I'll just be in tears and reminding ourselves that tears are so important. When you cry, it's a release, it's a soul remembering, from going from the forgotten to the remembering, where the soul's remembering something. And it's so important. If you can't cry, guys, try and get yourself into crying one day, at least once a year. Put on a sad film, get those emotions out.
Yes, but Dale, I have had program tears too.
There you go. So yeah, you go
Years
talk a
of
bit about those, Laura. Go
manipulation.
ahead.
Yeah, and there's a difference. I've had tears of manipulation, or when I can't get my own way in that controlling program that I've had, and things aren't working out for me the way that program had agendaed they should. And there is a difference in those sort of tears. But I don't know how I would describe that. I guess they're from the program, and the other tears are from the heart.
Yes, yes.
But
Remembering what's going
yeah,
on. Like, oh shit, I've
yeah,
got to cry this bitch because you'll remember if I cry.
yes, yeah, yes.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
funny, funny. So what? So we have sacred neutral. The negative programs are the negative beliefs, correct? Laura, do you want to answer that?
well, yeah, probably. I mean, if you believe something deep enough, it's going to lodge as a program, isn't it?
That's I'm on mute. So
Would you agree?
also as well is, so it can be a program, but it could be just yourself. And this is another thing to remember, that sometimes if we live a certain life, the negativity can become the whole, more and less take over the soul, and it become your personality. And this is what happens with addiction, and all sorts of different things. That actually, it's not just a program, it's not just a shard, it's your personality. And that's what you've got to start eradicating and evicting from the personality. If you suffer from negative beliefs, that again would be probably programs, but again, your personality is like that. So, how you can start eradicating and surgically removing that from your life piece by piece. We have these people who are just depressies all the time, negative people, nothing ever happens to them, the world's against them. That's their personality. Even though they are in program mode most of the time, their personality is just completely clouded by this falseness.
Yeah, well put. Yeah.
And so, Caroline, hello. Yes, those crocodile tears are sincere sorrow. Yes.
Absolutely. They're also, um, thinking of myself in the past, they've also been frustration as well. But part of that is about not getting my own way. And part of that is taking on narcissistic traits in a way that I needed to survive. This is not I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm saying that's the way I would have done it in the past, is just because I was in survival mode. And that goes back to something learned as a child anyway, those tears at times.
Yes.
when you're in survival mode and you can't handle your emotions. And part of self mastery is handling those emotions.
There we go. Handling it, learning to be as balanced as possible, having a practice, enjoying life, not taking spirituality too serious, learning soul surgery, learning psychic surgery, having soul audits, having readings, having craniosacral. All of those things are important because they give you different points of views. And when you start having experiences like that, you can then start thinking in different avenues. And we had that on the combined with Bob, which he won't mind me talking about this at all. But he had a lot of people around him all for like 3 days, and he wouldn't see this program. Then we let him under the light for the last hour on his own. And he went upstairs, and I was telling him, I was like, "This is a program. I'm talking to it here," and he was like, just ignoring it. And he had some time on his own, and he came back down, and the look of his face when he realized that he's finally fucking seen it. And this, and this is why healing and therapy is so important, because you can see things you didn't see before. Someone can help you navigate to see something about yourself that you're unaware of.
Yeah, absolutely, Dale. That's so true.
Beautiful. So we're going to call it an end to the show. So Laura, how can people get a hold of you for sessions?
Oh, Laura, 2feathers with the number 2 at gmail.com. And also there'll be an email coming out about the combined healing, the paranormal tour, and the haifu package, divine feminine package, that's coming up in York from the 18th to the 27th of April. But if you've got any questions about that, yes, please do email me. Or I'm an ancestral medium, so if you'd like to go and meet your ancestors at the fire, we can do a session together. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Laura. And if anybody would like a soul audit with myself, head over to daletobin.com, where I can take a look into everything for you. Also, I have the Psychic Surgery 1 as a product on my website now. So if you want to learn psychic surgery, soul surgery, part 1 is Psychic Surgery 1 is on my website to buy. It also comes with a free session as well. So yeah, what an incredible show, Laura. Thank you so much for joining me. And so, yeah.
Thank you. So if you go back to the beginning of the show, we explain what soul audit is, because he's just asked
So
in the chat.
it's basically, so soul auditing is creating ancestral balance within the client, allowing and observing them through time spaces, realities, timelines, and bringing all the timelines back onto a unique layer of single timeline, and allowing, I'd say, negative time loops to be cleared from the person, allowing them to see the higher point of view or the infinite point of view of self, while going to many different dreaming lodges, ancestral homeworlds, allowing healing to be brought back to the client and giving them inspiration again for their journey. And I'll be able to read the dream worlds as well and start beginning to understand what's needed in the moment for that client to return to peace. So if you've got negative shit going on around you, how to allow yourself to begin clearing that. If you suffer from depression, how to get out of depression. If you are very spiritual, do a lot of work. What's the next layer for you? There's many different things what soul auditing does. At the end of the session, I'll then take a trip to somewhere, and I'll be able to give you another different audit from other experiences and other realities and beings, and original clan mothers as well. So there's loads of just impacted information in there, and you're left feeling inspired and ready to continue on your journey. So that's a little bit of it, a tiny bit of it, but yeah.
And plus, Dale, you know some bears.
Yes, I know some bears. So I'll take you to my bear lodge, and I'll sit you down, we'll be by the fire, and we'll start going into the introspection of yourself and the self-reflection, and start observing yourself through the inner mastery, yes, of the bear and the bear teachings. Beautiful, guys. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And if you're on Rumble, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, please drop a like, subscribe, and share. We really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Yeah, we do. Thanks, everyone. Bye.